demarcation? When is he going to finish adjudication? So that the issue of title deed can be sorted out. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
CS.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. As I had indicated earlier, as a ministry, we are ready to do all those. We are ready to do the demarcation, adjudication, to all those areas that have been declared. But unfortunately, within those areas, Honorable Speaker, we've had areas of disputes and clashes, and we will not want to subject our staff to areas where their lives are not, the safety of their lives is not assured, and that's why we've agreed that we are going to form a team, a working team, with the Ministry of Interior and my ministry, plus also we involve the local leaders and the people they represent, so that with that, Honorable Speaker, we are going to resolve that problem. We've had that before, as I had mentioned. We had a case where over 10 years in Narok, an adjudication area had been declared, but the issuance of titles was a problem. But when the leaders came together, we worked together, we've resolved that problem. So I want to assure Honorable Senator that with that team, we are going to resolve that problem. We are going to immediately, of course, in collaboration with the Minister of Interior and leaders, it will be a matter of urgency for us to form that team, because we don't want that problem to continue coming up now and then. Thank you.
Senator Seki.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also rise to ask a question in regards to Kajiado County, Mailua Group Ranch, CS. This is a group ranch that has been demarcated. The titles has been issued, but there are a number of titles that are yet to come out, and a few issues within the same group ranch. I wanted to make a question to this Mailua group ranch in Kajiado County, in Kajiado Central. There has been issues, but there is there is some ways that the land adjudication officer is trying to resolve the problem, particularly from your office in Nairobi. But when he makes a determination of recommending for elections of members, there's some interference within Kajiado office, the adjudication office, and the county commissioner office. I think we have been looking for solutions of the committee be established, but we have been having those problems. I don't know if you will be in the position to answer that questions, because that has been there. There are a lot of communications in between your office and the county commissioner's office, but there has never happened they have never resolved any problem or anything about that. So I want to ask, when are we having elections of Mailua Group Ranch as determined by the members or requested by the members? Thank you.
Senator Seki, that's a very important question, but we are once again going opposite direction of how the question should be taken. We have agreed that the supplementary question should be those questions that offshoot from the substantive question, because for a specific question, the CS might require specific answers from the specific documentation that is in the office. So I don't know whether CS is able to tackle that, but I can almost assume what is going to answer you. I would encourage you to bring up a substantive question so the CS comes to this house with an answer that will be beneficial to you and to the members of that group ranch. CS, you could give a comment, but...
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And thank you for that direction that you've given. However, with the Mailua Group Ranch, It was divided into 4 blocks. Honorable Speaker, 3 blocks have already been issued with titles, and there's only 1 block that's remaining. And I want to assure the Honorable Speaker that I'm informed there are some issues with that one block. We are going to work together. Of course, those issues that you've raised to do with the administration and the staff from our office, I will look into that and make sure that the process is done the way, seamless, the way it's supposed to be done. Thank you.
Senator Cherarike Samson.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much for this opportunity. Before I ask supplementary question, Madam Speaker, just as a way for just your consumption in your office, that in future, when we ask a question that the CS does not have specific answer, you should give direction on what happens to that question, so that does it fall by the wayside, or we will get a written response, or when the CS appears next, he will answer. Madam Speaker, just for your guidance and maybe in future to give direction. And finally, Madam Speaker, in cases where we are asking a question that is live, that we need an immediate answer. For example, about maybe the flooding of across the country, what happens? Madam Speaker, quickly into my supplementary question is that to the CS, how many counties have a problem on titling around their borders? For example, like Taita Taveta and Machakos, Tarakaniti and Meru, number 1. Number 2, Madam Speaker, how many Kenyans across the counties that are waiting to get their title deeds, and how many have been so far be issued? And specifically, how many people from Nandi County are awaiting their title deeds, Madam Speaker? And I want to say it is the business of any cabinet secretary to know what is happening in the country. That is their job. So this, Madam Speaker, with all due respect, this issue of saying that the cabinet secretary came here and might not be aware of what is happening, then why are you in charge of a ministry if you don't know what? It's like your house, Madam Speaker. You cannot tell me you are not aware where your children are now, or your husband, or what they are doing. Madam Speaker, I think the cabinet secretaries must be serious. They must be serious. There is no option. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Cherarike, yes, it's good to keep the question so that he understands the question he's answering. I believe cabinet secretaries are serious people, but they can defend themselves. Respond to that.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. One, I want to assure the Honorable Senator that we really know our work, and we are committed to make sure that we serve Kenyans to the best of our ability. Madam Speaker, sometimes it might be very difficult to get to know on specific issues. We may not have answers to those nitty-gritties, like to know surely how many Kenyans need to have titles. That is something that I really need to engage with the State Department so that I give a concrete answer to that. However, Madam Speaker, where we can, we are trying to answer, and I would request that most of these questions be coming as primary ones so that we prepare and give adequate answers and responses to questions asked by honorable senators. Thank you.
So Honorable CS, you can supply that information, that there cannot be a point of order in the answering of the questions. Honorable CS, so you will supply information in relation to any one of the supplementary questions that you have been given, Senator Miraj, Senator Churarike, and members are encouraged once again to forward primary questions to the ministry so that those responses can come formally written and adequately resourced by the relevant ministries. What is your take, Senator Halwale?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I've been following the proceedings on this ministerial session, and allow me, before I comment, to laud the new minister. He has displayed a lot of professionalism and understanding of his ministry. Madam Speaker, unless members of this House want half-baked answers, they should be prepared to send substantive primary questions. But to ambush a minister here, when he has come to answer an issue on land in one county, and you expect him to demonstrate his control of the ministry by responding on an issue in another county, it is because you want a shallow answer. I wanted, Madam Chair, to appeal to colleagues, members of Parliament, that there is need for us during this time to get comprehensive responses on primary issues. If we push the minister to give you statistics, he has not walked with the whole ministry into the House. It is upon us, Madam Speaker, to get quality answers to quality questions. That was my contribution.
Thank you, Honorable Senator. Senators, to assist in this process and make it more qualitative, once again, put in your primary questions with the clerk. I will now invite Senator Methu, keeping to the rules of supplementary question that is relevant to the original question.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Of course, this is my line ministry. I am the chairman committee on water, lands, natural resources, and environment. So I would want to maybe show and give the right leadership and direction. Madam Speaker, you've had the Cabinet Secretary defer to the county of Nyandarwa, the county that I represent in issues to do with the issuance of title deeds for the colonial villages. Madam Speaker, I would want to first confirm that from where I sit, since this administration came into power, the people of Nyandarwa are a big beneficiary of the good work that is being done by the Ministry of Lands. Out of our 19 colonial villages, 17 are in the pipeline. Just the other day, on the 15th of April, they gave title deeds to a village in Shamata. So, Madam Speaker, my lead is not, I would not want to make it a question. I would want to just agree with my brother Senator Halwale that maybe to make things neater, we need to especially allow the senator that asked that question so that we do not delve into other matters and then the question may get lost along the way. Maybe we could stick to the primary questions and the supplementary questions are in line. And finally, Madam Speaker, I also find it not in very good taste that the questions and statements that are already before our committee again appear as supplementary questions when the minister is here. It makes our work as committees very difficult that it is the same question that we shall go and ask the Cabinet Secretary when he appears for our proceedings. So my final comment would be, just as you said, it is not our work to defend ministers, but I must comment that as the chairman, chairman of the ministry that deals with the Ministry of Lands, the minister before the House, I deal with 5 ministers. Out of the 5, I think he's one that is very committed in our legislative work. Every time we invite him, he's able to avail himself and appear in time and give us satisfactory answers. So I would want to ask Waziri continue in the same spirit. You are giving the government of Kenya Kwanza the kind of taste that the people of Kenya would expect from a government. Thank you very much.
Senators, will you keep it to the questions? Senator Madago is next.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my question to the Cabinet Secretary as a supplementary to what?
Senator Chirarige, Senator Madago has the floor. Senator Jackson Madago has the floor. Senator Chirarige, you will allow Senator Madago to address the House. You are going out of order, Senator Chirarige. I require you, Senator Chirarige, I require you to cede the floor to Senator Madago. Senator Madago, proceed.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my supplementary question to what was asked by Senator Mofire to the Cabinet Secretary is, how much time, when a Cabinet Secretary, do you require to be able to issue title deeds to the 3 sub-locations in Tharaka Nithi County? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
CS, Honorable CS. No, wait for Honorable CS. Senator Chirarige, you will follow the directions of the chair, please. No. CS, Honorable CS, okay. Can you respond? Proceed, Honorable CS.
Thank you.
You are out of order, Senator Chirarige. You are out of order, Senator Chirarige. You will not be heard until you comply with the directions of the chair. Resume your seat, Senator Chirarige. Resume your seat, Senator Chirarige. Resume your seat. I will not give you with that attitude. Resume your seat, Senator Chirarige. Senator Chirarige, resume your seat. Resume your seat. Resume your seat. You are out of order. Honorable CS, proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On the issues as to when we are going to start that process for that had been asked by the Senator for Tharaka Nithi, I want to tell this House, Madam Speaker, that in the next financial year, once funds are available, we are going to fast track. We are going to fast track that process.
Hold on, CS. Senator Chirarige, I want to read for you Standing Order 121, disorderly conduct. A senator is disorderly if the senator, C, unnecessarily interrupts proceedings or consults in a disruptive manner. What you're doing right now is trying to disrupt proceedings unnecessarily. I once again now give you the first warning that you are acting in a disorderly manner. Any further warning will prompt action from the Speaker's seat. Honorable CS, proceed.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. What I want to assure the Senator Mandago and Senator Mofire is that in the next financial year, we are going to have a crash program for both Meru and Tharaka Nithi with a team that we've agreed we're going to form and fast track that process. That is our work, and I want to assure the Senator that this problem we are going to resolve and it will never come back again for discussion. So with that team that we've agreed we're going to form, we are going to fast track in the next financial year once the funds are available, because it also requires a lot of funding and facilitation. Thank you.
All the questions relating to the Minister, the Honorable CS, have now been asked. I want to thank the Honorable CS for the questions that you did not have answers to. You will prepare comprehensive responses to all those questions. The Secretariat will assist to give you those questions. Then you'll be given a date by way of invitation to come back and respond to those, to give additional questions. Next question. I want to take this time now to release the Honorable CS and to say thank you for the support you have given to the question session during these proceedings. Now, the next question was question number 11. This was a question by Senator for Laikipia County, Senator John Kenywa Derito. He's not here. And also there is communication from the CS, Cabinet Secretary for Interior and National Administration. He was not able to attend to this session. And he was here, we are aware he was here last week. He has cooperated with the Senate proceedings on the question time. So I'm sure the Secretariat will schedule him on a date when he can appear and when the Senator will be there. So that question will be deferred to the next session when questions will be taken up against the CSs. So we can proceed to the next order.
Order number 8, motion. The doping menace threatening Kenya's impeccable global reputation in athletics.
Senator Cherarike, you had 5 remaining minutes in the doping motion.
Madam Speaker, I hope I wanted Senator Kalwale to second. But in my closing remarks, Madam Speaker, I'm very disappointed today the way we have handled the session on question time. I think we should be very careful to avoid doing public relation exercise on behalf of the executive. And I will request, Madam Speaker, through your office to get the answer of my questions through the clerk's office so that I can do proper follow-up, and to show the world and the House that I didn't mislead the Cabinet Secretary. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, what I can say...
Senator can you keep yourself to the session you've been called for, the motion? The question time is over.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It was just so that for purposes of record. Madam Speaker, what we are just saying is very simple, that the issue of doping in the country continues to affect each and every person. And therefore, Madam Speaker, the anti-doping agents must be held account, Madam Speaker. In fact, the Auditor General and the internal audit mechanism within ADAC, there is so many billions of shillings that ADAC has been given, Madam Speaker, to be able to fight the issue of doping menace among athletes, among sportsmen, women, to ensure we run a clean sport, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, you are aware, I think this weekend there is Kipchoge Keino Classic, where athletes are going to run. Madam Speaker, it's very unfortunate that a number of athletes in this republic has been disqualified only based on issue of doping, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, if we want to fight doping menace in this country, we must approach it in multifaceted way. One, we must, after banning the athlete, and I said yesterday on the floor of the House in my closing remarks, Madam Speaker, we need to go for the person who gave the substance to the athlete or the footballer or anybody, Madam Speaker, the sportsman and woman of that point. Madam Speaker, the DCI must do its job. Where are these athletes getting the drugs, Madam Speaker? Kenya Pharmacists and Poisons and Dentists Union must come out, Madam Speaker, and register the nurses and doctors, Madam Speaker, who give out the drugs, Madam Speaker. The county governments must remove pharmacies that give out, that allow the doping to happen in their premises, Madam Speaker. The ESCC and DCI and the Ministry of Sports has failed this country, Madam Speaker. The federations of this country has failed, Madam Speaker. Even the immigration. Because, Madam Speaker, as I said yesterday, and I think you were on the seat, if I can recollect my memory, you find somebody jets into the country using a visa, Madam Speaker, as a visa tourism, but you get him or her in Kaptagat, in Nandi Hills, in Meru, in Kisii, Madam Speaker, in other areas, Madam Speaker, being the ones that are training at least, yet they are tourists, Madam Speaker. And these are the people who mislead our athletes, our sportsmen and women in the country, Madam Speaker. This doping menace, if we don't address, Madam Speaker, it will dent the image of Kenya, Madam Speaker. And Kenya has been propelled by our sportsmen and women of athletics, that Kenya is known, Madam Speaker, because of the prowess in the athletics that we in the world, Madam Speaker. And therefore, Madam Speaker, these agencies, it is not enough to ban a sportsman and women over doping. We need to go for the reforms in the anti-doping agents, ADAC, Madam Speaker. We need reforms within the running of all the federations, Madam Speaker. You have had there are federations that have not done elections since Jesus Christ left this world forever, Madam Speaker. We need to relook and ensure, Madam Speaker, that we sit and agree that the reform should be done by the ministry. It should be done anti-doping agents, Madam Speaker. We need anti-doping agents that are proactive, Madam Speaker. We don't need ADAC to be postmorticians. We need them to be proactive, Madam Speaker. We need them to prevent. We don't need them to come and do more. Because what ADAC has reduced itself is just giving us statistics. Oh, we are banned 10 athletes. Oh, we are banned 20. What is ADAC doing, Madam Speaker, to ensure they fight this issue of doping within the sports fraternity in the Republic of Kenya, Madam Speaker? So it behooves us. Madam Speaker, we don't want when we win in Boston, in Chicago, anywhere in the world, people don't trust that we have won in a fair and square way, Madam Speaker. I say the case of Russia, Madam Speaker, where there was a time Russia colluded with the athletes and the ministry and the government. And later when the International Athletics Association Federation found out, Madam Speaker, AAF, that this had been done, Madam Speaker, they went ahead, Madam Speaker, and banned the entire country, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we don't need to risk our nation. We don't need to risk the future, Madam Speaker. With those very, very remarks, allow me to call upon Senator Danson Mungatana to second my motion on anti-doping. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the indulgence.
Senator Danson.
Madam Speaker, I want to, first of all, take this opportunity to congratulate the Honorable Samson Cherargei, the Senator for Nandi, for bringing up this motion before this House today. Madam Speaker, this motion addresses an extremely important issue that deals with the nation's pride. Madam Speaker, reports show that Kenya is facing, there are 45 athletes who are on sanction because of suspicion of doping. Some have even been actually confirmed and convicted. Madam Speaker, there are important events that are going to take place, the Paris Olympics in 2024, next year, in which Kenya, at least on the field of athletics, is expected to give sterling performance, given the history that we have had as a nation. And so, Madam Speaker, it behoves upon us and the bodies that are in athletics and the bodies that control issues to do with the welfare, in particular the doping checks that are in this country, to make sure that Kenya's image is impeccable as we go towards the 2024 Paris Olympics. Madam Speaker, to demonstrate that this matter was very serious, the Minister for Sports, Babu Namwamba, he wrote a letter to Sebastian Coe, who I think he's the boss in the World Athletics body, to urge him not to take what we call final measures against the athletes who are suspected to be involved in this doping. Madam Speaker, the issue here is that some of these athletes are very innocent people. They are innocent people who are just looking for a way to earn a living. Madam Speaker, I have had a personal experience with a young man who is an upcoming athlete. This young man came to me and told me that I want you to invest in me. He doesn't even come from my county, Madam Speaker, but he spoke to me because at the time I was having a practice, or a legal practice outside, slightly outside here in Nairobi. And he came in as a client, but as he was leaving, he told me that he is also in athletics. And Mr. Speaker, that's the first time that I got to know the world of athletics. Madam Speaker, athletics is a business that Kenya can thrive in. Athletics brings a lot of money, but there's got to be serious investment in the athletes. And one of those investments, Madam Speaker, is to make sure the athlete stays in camp, in a good, reputable camp, so that he can train, put his body in good shape, and participate in particular races which are paid up races. There are races that these athletes, they target. They may not be Boston Marathon, they may not be New York Marathon, which have very high prize monies, but just normal marathons across the world. They have a list of those marathons in which they invest. They tell you, pay for me to stay in the camp, help me to get a coach, these are the costs. And Madam Speaker, I have invested in this kind of business in upcoming athletic young men. And Madam Speaker, these are very innocent people. People who are maybe, someone is a mechanic during the day, but he realizes that he has actually a talent because maybe in school he always used to do well in athletics. Madam Speaker, these people are very innocent. Some of them have fallen victims because they join camps, and then in those camps, we have crooked trainers, people who have come to this country, like my colleague, Senator Gay has said, they have come into the country without proper documentation. They have gone to pretend that they are trainers. And their target is just to get into contracts with talented young men so that they can get the money. Madam Speaker, their motive is just the money. So without the athletes knowing what is going on, they create programs, they create foods, they give them medication, which according to the athletes, it's part of the training program, but they are not aware that these people are injecting things into the foods they eat, and as a result, they inject and make them use substances which are abused so that these people can win those races, and the target is for them to get the money. Madam Speaker, this motion will help to let the world know that the Senate of Kenya is against this kind of practices. The Senate of Kenya has pronounced itself
in matters to do with athletics, that in this country, we want to keep athletics pure. In this country, we want to do honest work. In this country, if coaches come here, they must come to train honest, talented people. Madam Speaker, this motion, I am calling upon all members of the Senate who will speak to this motion to support it, Madam Speaker. I am calling upon the members of this House, Madam Speaker, to rise above partisan inclinations, Madam Speaker, to come and speak as a nation to support this motion. This motion, Madam Speaker, will help us send a message to not only the Kenyan anti-doping agencies, the Kenya athletics agencies, but even the world agencies, that we in Kenya cannot condone practices that are geared at cheating in international athletics. Madam Speaker, my colleague and learned friend has said that Russia was burnt, Madam Speaker. The whole nation was burnt. Athletes from that country, Madam Speaker, had to run away, try and get national citizenship from other nations so that they can utilize the talent, so that they can compete in their personal capacities. Madam Speaker, in a first world country like Russia, they can afford to do that. What about here in Kenya? Madam Speaker, how many young people can actually afford to get out in Kenya, go to another country, convince people that, you know, I have a talent, it's just that my country has been banned, but I have a talent, and then those people to actually give you an immigration status or a citizenship of that country and allow you to compete in their country's name, Madam Speaker, is impossible. Our young people who have made money, who have made name and fame in athletics, most of them come from very rural and humble backgrounds, and they cannot afford a bad reputation for this country. It will be a loss for this nation, Madam Speaker, if this thing is not controlled. It will be a loss if the anti-doping agency is not put under the microscope again. Madam Speaker, these people need to be, in fact, summoned even before the committees of this House to explain what is happening in that agency, Madam Speaker. It is allocated government money. It has government facilities. And yet, Madam Speaker, they are not giving us the results that they are supposed to give to us. Madam Speaker, it is a shame that they have not even filed a report to either houses of Parliament, either National Assembly or the Senate, so that people can see what is it that they are actually using our money for. So, Madam Speaker, I want to use the floor of this House to appeal to the executive, particularly the minister who is in charge of sports, Babu Namwamba. He has been a member in this House. He knows that he carries the hopes and aspirations of many young people who in this country are trying to make a living through athletics, through their talents. Madam Speaker, I pray that they will take this motion seriously. And with those many remarks, Madam Speaker, I beg to second. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Senators, I propose the question that, aware that in 2018, Kenya was placed under Category A by the World Anti-Doping Agency, and since then, 40 Kenyan athletes have been banned by either the Athletics Integrity Unit, AIU, or the Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya, ADAK, and has led to a situation whereby the Kenyan athletes have to undergo intense testing before participating in major events, and has immensely affected the reputation of the Kenyan athletes and the standing of Kenya in the international sports arena, where it currently ranks at number 5, concerned that despite the high number of alleged doping cases. Kenya has only one world anti-doping agency, WADA, approved blood testing laboratory, forcing it to send urine tests to Qatar in South Africa for analysis, and that the Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya, ADAK, is taking too long to address the doping menace, which is likely to affect the state of preparedness for the athletes in the upcoming 2024 Olympic Games in Paris. Now, therefore, the Senate resolves that the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Arts, A, come up with modalities that can help achieve increased testing, intelligence gathering on athletes and doping awareness programs. B, in collaboration with Athletics Kenya, aka a National Olympics Committee of Kenya, NOC, to vet all training camps, coaches, trainers, and other athletes, handlers. Initiate investigations at Anti-Doping Agency Kenya, ADAK, to identify and sanction all responsible officers liable for the menace of doping. D, in collaboration with the Directorate of Criminal Investigations and the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, finalize pending investigations and recommend prosecution of individuals involved in giving this banned substance to athletes. And E, in collaboration with the Ministry of Health, to identify and revoke licenses for medics, pharmacies, and hospitals responsible for the prescription of the commonly used drugs by the athletes. That is the end of that, and I will now call upon senators to make contributions to the motion, beginning with Senator Gataya.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm rising to support this very important motion. One veteran, a serious debater, Honorable Samson Sharagai, who has brought this motion. Honorable Speaker, you know, as a very best countries in this world that produce the best athletes. We have an historical pride on that arrangement, Honorable Speaker. And it is unfortunate, Honorable Speaker, that of recent times we have had issues where Kenya is being branded as one of the countries where we are practicing what Honorable Jaragai is terming as doping. It is an issue that is likely to strike our pride off, and I'm happy that the Senate has come up with a very elaborate move to make sure that we have brought on board all the agencies that are supposed to make sure that we prevent that kind of retrogressive issue that is likely to degrade our international status, especially where the athletics is concerned. So it is in this respect, Honorable Speaker, that as a House, we are supposed to fast track this motion and make sure that we retain our dignity as a country. Honorable Speaker, if you happen to travel in any part of the world, if you happen to say that you come from Kenya, one of the immediate questions that anybody who has never even visited Kenya would ask you is, you come from Kenya, the country of athletes? So I think that fame, Honorable Speaker, should be protected by all means. And I'm happy that the Senate has come up with this motion, because the issue of doping, Honorable Speaker, is too negative. And we are likely to lose our dignity as a country and the respect that the whole world has bestowed upon us for decades. So it is this respect, Honorable Speaker, that I strongly support the motion. We bring on board all the agencies, the DCI, the intelligence, and these people are supposed now to come up with a verdict on how we are supposed now to demystify this fact that Kenya is moving towards that doping route. So, Honorable Speaker, I strongly support.
Honorable Senators, we now call upon the mover to respond, seeing there are no other requests for debate.
Madam Speaker, I don't know how many minutes I have to reply. I don't know what is the, how many minutes so that I can, looking at the time.
You have 15 minutes, Senator Chadarike.
Okay, so we are supposed to adjourn at 1 p.m.
PM, yes.
Okay. Madam Speaker, I want to thank my colleagues. The issue of sports industry is one of the lucrative and one of the looked after, Madam Speaker. This motion has been there on the order paper. I want to thank your office, the office of the Speaker, the Secretariat, and of course the Senate Business Committee for scheduling. Madam Speaker, I've seen a number of colleagues complaining that their motions and bills are not scheduled. But they don't have the patience some of us have, Madam Speaker, because you can see some of us have waited until the cabinet secretaries have answered questions, and then we have moved our motion. So my advice to my colleagues, if you cannot complain that your motion or statement, Manchester United, Madam Speaker, she watches football, it's exciting. Of course, it is without question that Karungo Atangwa from Fridays, I doubt from the way he looks like somebody who supports Chelsea. Because Chelsea was beaten yesterday by Arsenal, Madam Speaker. So this is, Madam Speaker, or which team do you support, or Kiambu FC? Madam Speaker, that is Kiambu FC. Madam Speaker, I am just using that example. The reason London, the English Premier League, Madam Speaker, the Premier League, it is about the money, the chases. They are making money from all angles, Madam Speaker, to wear a T-shirt, and that is why companies like Emirates, Etihad, are fighting over to sponsor some of these organizations. We used to have Sport Pesa before the former regime, Madam Speaker, and I have happened to have been the chair, and we investigated the issue of betting. And we agreed that you can bet, but betting should not be an addiction. Because you find in villages, young boys, Madam Speaker, were stealing eggs to go and steal, to go and bet, Madam Speaker. We can do, that is why the industry of sports is so huge and is so lucrative. I can bet that many billions of shillings in pounds that go to the London, because we watch DSTV, we pay for subscription, Madam Speaker, to watch Arsenal and Chelsea, Madam Speaker. And for the information of the House, Madam Speaker, I'm a fan of Chelsea. And we, not fan of Chelsea, but Arsenal. And you saw we are trashing the people, Madam Speaker. And we are on top of the table, not the local table that our colleagues want to tell us. Of course, we are on top of the table at the moment, Madam Speaker. So I am doing this even in Kenya Premier League, Madam Speaker. The English Premier League, the Champions League, even nowadays, Madam Speaker, in the Middle East here, where the likes of Olunga are playing, Dubai, the Far East, even the East, they are now moving towards sports business. That's why the owners of these famous football clubs, Madam Speaker, are now doing business of oil, like some of the guy who was the owner of Chelsea. I think he used to come from Russia. It was an oil mogul, Madam Speaker. So the industry of sports is so huge and so lucrative. We must guard it jealously, Madam Speaker. I've already said, why don't we use our athletes, our sportsmen and women to do branding? Why should we give money to brand Kenya? Madam Speaker, why? If we can use, by the time Inos, Madam Speaker, a few years ago when Eliud Kipchoge was running, I'm told 6 billion people were watching across the world. Madam Speaker, at that time, I was on official trip of the Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights Committee. We were visiting Brumadinho to see the issue of disaster preparedness in Brazil at that time. And we had to watch at 1 a.m. in Rio de Janeiro, Madam Speaker. You can imagine, Madam Speaker, if Eliud Kipchoge were wearing a T-shirt saying, visit Kenya, hakuna matata. The way the president of Rwanda has done, visit Rwanda by ensuring that the Arsenal players wear the jersey that indicates visit Rwanda, Madam Speaker. Why shouldn't we invest, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, I saw the other day when athletes were coming back, the footballers and others, whenever they come back here, the only gift that the ministry gives them is the Masai sugar. We should ask Senator Seki and Senator Perry Sopigo to supply free of charge those Masai sugar. And we are proud that we have given, Madam Speaker. The award to gold winners, the silver, we are giving them less than $1 million. Here in Uganda, our elder of East Africa, Mzee M7 Museveni, our friend, is giving them a car, a house. I think somebody told me he's giving them a wife for those who are not married and a husband. Madam Speaker, you can imagine, and these are only they want to gold. And they were given head of state commendation recognition, Madam Speaker. I've only asked some of these athletes should be given diplomatic passport so that they don't see this is the national treasure. These are national treasure, Senator Danson Mungatana. Why should these athletes and sportsmen, the likes of Olunga and the rest, or Manyala, be queuing like the rest of the people? Yet this is our national treasure. This is our brand. Madam Speaker, the sad thing when these people land, the Eliud Kipchoges of this world, the Omanyalas of this world, the Olungas of this world, the Olies of this world, Madam Speaker, when they land, they are given VIP treatment. But when they are in Kenya, when they win, Madam Speaker, in their winnings, when they win in Chicago, Boston, they are being taxed in America and you tax them in Kenya. How will you encourage the growth, Madam Speaker? While you go ahead and give exemptions of $370 billion to some people who are stealing from us. Madam Speaker, as a country, we must be serious in protecting the sports. If I can bet to tell you, Madam Speaker, if we protect sports, the issue of youth unemployment, Madam Speaker, everywhere from my county, when you wake up at 4 a.m., you drive through Nandils, through Kapsabet, through Eldoret, Madam Speaker, through Iten. We are not night runners. But at 4 a.m., our young men and women are running along the tarmac, chasing that, Madam Speaker. Only for somebody to mislead them to use doping or these substances that have been banned, Madam Speaker. We can increase and expand the opportunities for young people. If we protect, we need to create sports academies, Madam Speaker. I have seen the CS in charge of sports, Madam Speaker, Mheshimiwa CS Ababu na Mwamba, creating time for content creators. What do we call these TikTokers, Madam Speaker? Of our tradition, he finds time to go on TikTok. TikTokers, these content creators, they are good people, yes. But where is the football? Where is the traditional athletics, football, volleyball, Madam Speaker? Where is it? Why is the ministry concerned about content creators on social media that do not, you know, to be a content creator is a very simple thing. You can start cooking mukimo and start getting a camera and then share on TikTok, and that is it. Those are being people who are called content creators, Madam Speaker. The CS must do what we call default setting, must sit and re-examine, Madam Speaker. Our sports is dying. And somebody is busy hosting content creators, digital content creators, TikTokers, that will not assist the country to move forward. Madam Speaker, and I want to thank the President for commitment. I know when the CS of Sports will come over the issue of Stadia. I'm aware the Kirinyaga is already, and is it ready? Oh, but there is a stadium, Madam Speaker. There is the stadia that was being promised, Madam Speaker. The President has promised that those stadia must be fixed. We need to create sports academies for the young men. Madam Speaker, in this city, there is a disease called criabiosis. Madam Speaker, I fear for the children who are growing up in some of these estates. They know where they play. When you drive over the weekend, they are forced to play at the southern bypass, the interchanges, risking their lives, Madam Speaker. Because public places, which have been the fields where young people would have trained, have now been taken by disease called grabiosis disease in this city, Madam Speaker. How can we grow? Madam Speaker, when you see these famous footballers like Messi and the rest, they grew up through football academies. That is why they are the masterpiece in their game. That's why they are grandmasters. That's why they are legends, Madam Speaker. It is because we must invest from the lowest level. Madam Speaker, when the CS of Sports will come here, he must tell us what he's doing about sports academies. Madam Speaker, we need to agree as a country. Madam Speaker, the final I want to make, because I've seen the light is gone on, as I thank my colleagues, because, Madam Speaker, the fact that they didn't speak to the motion, they supported through prayers, Mate ya Baraka, and through the Holy Spirit, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, there is an animal called sports fund. That sports fund, the money was removed to do campaigns over Zimio. And I'm not afraid to say that. Madam Speaker, sports fund was being removed to pay subsidy for fuel. Our sportsmen and women are being stranded in hotels. Madam Speaker, there was a time that our sportsmen traveled in Brazil, they were sharing rooms and COVID was still around, Madam Speaker. The issue of sports fund we must address. We have an acting CEO for the longest time possible, Madam Speaker. That sports fund, and I'm bringing an amendment, and I want to urge my colleagues who did not speak to it to come and speak to that, to ring-fence the sports fund, Madam Speaker, to use only for sports. Because what used to happen in the previous administration, they take the funds, they go and do campaign with it. Madam Speaker, they take the sports fund, they go and do something with it, Madam Speaker. I want to say the issue of sports fund should be ring-fenced for only men and women who are in sports, Madam Speaker. We need to ring-fence. Why would sports fund be used to pay fuel subsidy? We were told here when we censured the CS of Energy in the last session, Madam Speaker. And it is good that Senator Paris Topiko was a member of parliament. And we have argued, why would you run a sports fund using rules and regulations? How will we support sports academies if we are using sports fund to do campaigns, political campaigns, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, I'm bringing an amendment to ring-fence the sports fund because the way sports fund was designed, anybody can walk in, take the money, and justify that we are doing. Madam Speaker, you and me have been in this country the longest. And you being a former Secretary General of a ruling party and a member of Speaker's panel, we have had cases where athletes, men and women of sports, men and women, are stranded in airports because of non-payment. Just a minute, Madam Speaker. Of men and women, their hotels are stranded, Madam Speaker. Their air tickets are not.
Add him 3 minutes, please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for being the champion of clean sports and ensuring that Madam Speaker, in conclusion, all senators here, including Senator Miraj, I've always heard that our men and women of sports are stranded somewhere. Their hotel bills are not paid. Their air tickets are not paid. They are stranded in the airport because money has not been paid. But we have a sports fund. And I heard the CS saying yesterday, or the PS in some news outlet, that they have a demand of 60 billion to the sports fund, which they cannot sustain, and they have been giving money to federation. Madam Speaker, where is this 60 billion going? I want to challenge the Committee of Labor and Social Welfare, I'm not a member, that they need to be proactive. We don't want committees that are morticians, Madam Speaker. You know, morticians will only operate on a corpse and give us a report. They need to be proactive. I want to challenge the Labor Committee. Let them tell us what is happening with sports fund. The ministry has said they have made a request in this financial year of 60 billion from different federations, Madam Speaker. We are tired. Madam Speaker, will we run our sports through Harambes? Kenyans for Kenyans. Our athletes, our football men and women are stranded, volleyball. We do a pay bill number and say, oh, our athletes are stranded somewhere. We need to fundraise, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, when I speak about sports, I don't look like somebody who is, I was a very serious footballer in my heydays. So don't understand. When I speak about sports, Madam Speaker, I speak it with passion, Madam Speaker. Because the sports is also health, Madam Speaker, in conclusion. I can bet Senator Miraj, Senator Danson Mungatana, Senator Topiko, Senator Karunga Watangwa, every day they go to the gym. Because sports, it depends with the type of the gym that you go. It depends with the type of the gym that you go. But every one of us, even including table office and yourself, Madam Speaker, you normally find time to do an exercise. Because being health in body is health in mind. And the healthy nation is a wealthy nation, Madam Speaker. Sports only is not for recreation purposes or for money. Sports only, Madam Speaker, is for the good health of some of us. Madam Speaker, and that is why you will live longer if people continue to do exercises, Madam Speaker. But we must create places where we can do exercise. Madam Speaker, I can go on and on, because where I come from, Madam Speaker, 90% of young people are into sports business. Many businesses in North Rift, Madam Speaker, I'll invite you one day. The business in Eldoret, Kapsabet, Nandils, Iten, is only surviving because of sports. If you kill sports, you have killed us. I thank you, Madam Speaker, with the indulgence you have given me.
Pursuant to Standing Order 84-1, I hereby make a determination that the matter does not affect counties, and we will defer the putting of the question to 2:30. Next order.
Order number 9, motion. Provision of free sanitary towels to end period poverty.
Senator Gloria Oroba, not present. Next order. It has been dropped from the order paper. Next order.
Order number 10, motion. Enhancing highway safety and convenience.
Senator Hatib Mohammed, Hatib Faki, not present. Dropped from the order paper. Next order.
Order number 11, motion. Arbitrary arrest of Kenyan fishermen by Ugandan authorities.
Senator Oburu Odinga, not present. Dropped from the order paper. Honorable Senators, there being no other business on the order paper, the Senate stands adjourned until 2:30 p.m. today, Wednesday, 3rd May 2023.